Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here, back again with another video, and this one is going to be more of a rant-oriented video because this is sort of something that I've been seeing a lot being proliferated as a piece of advice on, popular social media like /K or Reddit and things like that. And this is this isn't really telling you not to do this, it's just kind of why I think it's personally a bad idea. So, and this is also going to be one of the very few Corona-related video topics that I'm going to put on my channel because generally I just do not like the topic of talking about protective equipment for coronavirus because I think it's just another one of those big viruses that's going to get everyone scared and it's going to blow over and nothing's going to happen. But, I'm not the expert on that. I'm sure all you guys are because you have your little bots that you can check on and whatnot. But we're not going to get into that. So, as the title would allude you to, the whole claim is that everyone should be using the 3M Bayonet cartridges if they want protection against corona. And how do you do that when you when you want to use something more than a 3M specific mask, like you want to use just your average mill shit type gas mask? Well, the solution is these 3M Bayonet adapters, which are a RD40 by 1/7 inch thread. What are words? Words are hard. And you could screw these onto your standard milsurp mask, and these will adapt them to bayonet threads. If I can get the camera to focus on these, that would be great. But yeah, I have several problems with these. Number one is that why are you using bayonet threads? Because yeah, you can just, screw it onto a mask and use a proprietary 3M cartridge, but why would you do that when you can just as easily, and probably even more easily, find P100 rated cartridges like the MSA Opti filter, or I forgot what the Scott one is called, the Scott P100 cartridges. Though there already exist 40 millimeter particulate canisters. They're not a hard thing to find. And so you don't really need anything like this if you're gonna, and I assume most of the people getting these are just getting the standard 3M multi-gas filters, which are a waste of resources anyways, because you're only buying it for the particulate level. You're not buying it for toxic industrial chemicals, although they are an advantage if you're like spray painting or something. You don't really need all that protection when you're obviously just trying to protect yourself against a biological threat. Additionally, you don't even need a P100 cartridge because any surplus CBRN canister, even if they're expired, the particulate layer in the canister will probably still be fine. I say probably because I'm not the expert on this. I'm just assuming, which I shouldn't assume, but just generally given things, particulate layers don't expire as quickly as the carbon layers do, because the carbon has actual impregnation that can break down over time, and it can be less efficient against filtering against chemical, biological, and radiological agents, but the biological aspect is not handled by the carbon layer. It is handled by the particulate layer, which is at the very beginning of the canister, and you can actually see the particulate layer here. It's the very first thing that goes through a canister, because not only does particulate layers stop biological agents, but they stop certain types of smokes and things of that nature. But anyways, any standard surplus CBRN canister will have a particulate layer in it. So even if the carbon layer is expired, even a GP5 filter, I would even recommend using a GP5 filter over the 3M bayonet adapters, because you know why? Yes, maybe they have asbestos, maybe it's all, big and scary, but yeah, you gotta consider it this way. If your life situation is so dire that you need full PPE, full face mask, protective suit for a biological hazard, then any asbestos-related ailments are going to be a lot less of an ailment to you than the immediate threat of a biological disaster. So just keep that in mind. All surplus canisters have a particulate layer, but it's obviously better to get particulate-specific canisters. However, I can understand if you can't afford these, if you're, poor, and you just want to use surplus canisters, that is the solution. This is not. Another reason why I hate these is they aren't that protective. They're very flimsy things. The main problem here is that literally all your protection is this orange foam rubber gasket right here. So you have a considerable rattle fit. Like this, there's not a lot of tight tolerances to these parts. It's very loose, very rattle fit, and if nothing is sealing properly, or if this gasket isn't compressed against all surfaces of the two parts that are kind of interlocked together, you're going to have some leaks, because you can not only leak between the threads here, but there's also 3 fucking holes that are in just right underneath this gasket. So if this gasket is deteriorated, it's useless. Another thing that I have a problem with is that these don't seal with every mask. And I've seen people on /K, they'll put them on, like, say, an M53, or like an MSA Millennium, and they do seal, they do fit, but again, why would you want this when you can literally take any off-the-shelf surplus canister? Doesn't matter if the carbon layer is expired, it still has that particulate layer, and it's still going to protect you against biological agents, as well as tear gas and riot control agents. So that's another advantage to using surplus canisters over proprietary 3M garbage, which I guarantee is going to be all sold out if anything hits your particular location, because proprietary stuff is not what you want to go for. You want to go for modularity, interchangeability. That's why the M53 mask was designed with a 40mm port, because at the request of US SOCOM, they needed the ability to change out canisters with potential enemy canisters, because most of the world is not using the Bayonet M61 cartridges that the Joint Service General Purpose mask uses. But again, more digression. Let's get on to another point. These don't fit all masks. These only fit masks that have threads that are shallow enough for it to be fully seated on, or just have very high ports, like the 3M 7800S, like it was originally designed for. Because as you can see, the ports on these are very high. There's a lot of real estate for these little lugs here, these little lugs that you can use to turn the actual thread itself to kind of overhang. And if you have masks that have a wider 40mm port face, these aren't going to interface with those properly. I've had several masks that I've tried to screw these onto, and they don't screw down all the way, and they leak, because sometimes these just don't seat properly. And that's really kind of the final nail in the coffin that you should consider as to why you should not be falling for the 3M Bayonet cartridge meme, is because, just to recap, A, these are kind of flimsy, and if they're defective, if they become defective in any way, they're going to be useless. B, 40mm particulate canisters already exist, and C, even expired surplus canisters, even ones that are hazardous to your health, are going to have a particulate layer that will protect you against biological agents. And again, that any big scary asbestos or chromium inside is not going to be as scary as whatever you're facing up against. So if you're really so poor that you can't go out and afford not proprietary, but purpose-made particulate canisters, then your best bet is to just go with surplus. So that's really all I have to say on the matter. Again, feel free to dispute this if you want. That's just my 2 cents. And if you want to get proprietary garbage, go ahead. But it's completely unnecessary, in my opinion, when you have so many cheaper options that don't require you to use a specific thread. That's really these Bayonet canisters aren't that great. They're just not a good solution. So now that you have that sort of knowledge, just kind of try to avoid falling for memes. Okay? Stay safe out there.